group of folks that you worry about and that you're responsible for. So making sure that, they have work days, days that it rains, folks go home.
Particularly after the last recession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can see it's a huge burden, and it's part of your progression planning. If you're gonna grow a company, are we gonna make sure that we've got work to sustain that growth, continue to sustain that growth?
Excellent. The responsibilities range from getting a project done on time to things that are completely outside of any control that you have, right? Like what the market is going to do, what the weather is going to be, and yet even though they're outside of your control, you still have to figure out how to deliver on time exactly what you said and meet the expectations that are promised. There's a lot to that whole meeting expectations thing, right? And setting them properly in the first place and then realizing what the differences are. Okay. So what if we were talking about your heart right here? What if you went to the doctor and were told that everything is a wreck and you're about to lose it, you're gonna be sick and die, or not die, because that's an easy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what if you were told that it's all on the line right now? How would you think about your body? And let's just take the same words that we just said about how you would treat your top client. So first of all, you would drop everything, right? This is now number one priority. It's all about my heart right now. And those heart problems, they are now my problems. It is not some innocuous in the background I'm not thinking about anymore. I gotta deal with this right now. And my problems come first, even before what somebody else at the table thinks of me, right? I gotta take care of myself. It's my first thought in the morning, and I might even wake up at the night and I might even be worried about it. I can switch that approach from worry to something that's beneficial. But either way, it's on my mind all the time. I'm worried about not only the functioning of it, like it being good enough, but I'm also worried about the liability of it. Because if things go wrong with my heart, then I'm gonna get really, really bad, serious repercussions that are very difficult to escape and very expensive. And just like lawsuits, it's a no-win situation, right? It doesn't matter what the answer is. It doesn't matter if you're completely right. If you gotta get sucked into a lawsuit, then you have just signed your time, your energy, and your money, and your focus away.
Even to win, right?
Even to win. Yeah. If you're lucky, then you get to walk out of mediation, right? And you get to have it mediated if you're lucky. But the more, it's just a time suck. We had a guy that took a disliking to my boss, and he was a hobbyist. Like, he just sued people for a hobby.
Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is absolutely fantastic. He didn't have a leg to stand on and did not care. His sole purpose was just making this guy so stressed out and spinning his wheels that he hated what he did, and that's exactly what happened. I got to watch that happen. So it didn't ever occur to me before that moment in my life that there were people out there that did this sort of thing, but that's a thing. So in the same way though, the first blip about your heart, there's no goodness that comes from it. You just have to stop everything and take care of it, right? You can't avoid the lawsuit either. Wine and dine. So you do things, you go the extra mile for your clients. You make it a good atmosphere. You bring in delicious food that is to their liking. And now, if you're talking about your heart, then you can do the same thing, right? You can provide the atmosphere and bring in the delicious food that is to your heart's liking. Everything matters. So in the same way that everything matters in that top client relationship, everything matters to your heart. Every piece of your day matters. I do very specific things in order to make sure that I have an excellent day every single day. I do specific types of meditations. I do specific types of exercise. Spotted my Ironman bag when I came in today. I am very, very, very diligent to those things because I am 100% clear that if I fail in my own obligations to my own body, my health, and my responsibility, then I am doing a disservice to my clients because I'm not showing up as my best. And also, I'm a hypocrite, and that's no fun. I'll pass these around because I see people a little bit jealous of your cards. What about this keeping up the persona, the appearances, the faking it? How would that translate to your heart?
Well, you know, tough guys don't go to the doctor, right? I'll just run this one out, right? That little pain, I just, you know,
It's no big
it's
deal.
not that big a deal.
And there's actually some truth behind that. Like, what did you say? Just
Drink water.
Just drink some water. And there's some truth behind that.
Yeah. If you weren't doing that before, then you know that's definitely gonna
Right.
help.
There's some truth behind it because if the problem that you're having is caused in part by stress, then you have a natural inclination to not want to stress out more, and making an appointment with a doctor can
Verify.
like trigger, I'm stressed out. I'm like, even before you ever get to the appointment with the doctor, your body's like, what if it is really bad? What if this is stuff going on? At lunch, as you were saying, that there was a gentleman at the calcium scoring test that was like anxious
So nervous.
just because he was having a test done, right? So if the heart is weak to begin with, then you might have a natural inclination to like, yeah, I'm just gonna not deal with that really stressful thing right now. Unfortunately, if the really stressful thing is the heart, then we have a bit of a conflict and can be a dangerous one. What about building relationships? How would you build a relationship with your heart?
That's a tough one. I don't go to the doctor. I don't know how you would know on a daily basis that your heart's doing okay.
You could,
I don't know.
you can educate yourself on how your diet and sleep habits have an effect on blood pressure or cholesterol, or, you know, the leg bone's connected to the foot bone. There's a song about how it all works together, so you can educate yourself about some of that. And maybe more sun or less sun could help you with some heart problems. Maybe you have a vitamin D thing that could be affecting it, so.
And Jason should have been to our heart score test last night, so put him on for the next one.
That's right, because he
Jason, I don't know if Jason had something, but if you don't know how
No,
your heart is.
I was thinking, John Smith.
Oh, I don't know.
I do. Well, that brings up a question, if anyone
It's
interrupts
a
me a little bit.
discussion.
When you say your heart health, your discussion also includes like meditation and stress level. Do you literally mean my heart health of the organ, or do you mean my emotional state, like how I'm feeling, what heart
Do
health
they
in
go
like the
hand in
generic
hand?
sense?
Is he skipping to the next slide?
Do they go hand in hand?
Am I?
So apparently now we are at the point in the presentation where you get to learn some Chinese. This is the Chinese word that means heart. It is the exact same word that is used for mind. And the reason for that is because Chinese medicine acknowledges that the functioning of your heart is directly correlative to the functioning of your mind. Specifically, for example, if you are very, very anxious about something, how clearly do you think about it? You might think about it a lot, but you ever find yourself thinking the same thing over and over and over and over and over again? In fact, the very thing that's making you anxious in the first place is basically like the broken record that you can't hop off the track of. Yeah. So there's a direct correlation, and
And Cynthia, we have a member, I'm not gonna name names, but picture health, ate healthy, worked out, you would just be like, nobody's healthier than this person. Last recession, had bypass surgery, I was like, what, were you sneaking double cheeseburgers? All about stress, his doctor said completely 100% stress.
I'm glad you brought that up. So, given my resume, as you might imagine, as an engineer, I am very results oriented. So whatever cool stuff there is, and I study lots of cool stuff all the time, I always want to see what works. That's what matters the most. So I wanna show you a couple of different graphs. So, there's two different ones there, so you can pass along what I'm about to give you, but pass them both. This is a special machine that I have in my office. It's a special type of heart graph machine. And,
Same thing.
oh,
I've seen it before.
maybe,
I don't wanna cheat, I've seen it before, I'm not gonna cheat.
off yours.
I have plenty for everyone, Mary, so
Oh,
help
okay,
yourself.
gotcha. It's not mine, is it?
Thanks.
So what we
It's
have
not
here,
mine.
nope, they're, okay, yeah. You can turn. What we have here are,
You can read through there?
Yeah.
Oh, you can read through your black ink.
okay, please
You're
don't
not
read through the
supposed to
black
be
ink.
doing that. You're not supposed to be doing that.
I blacked it out and then made Xerox copies of it, so I apologize. Okay, so anybody remember what the sound of the heart is?
Love dub.
Love dub, and you did it just right because you did love dub. That's what it's supposed to look like. That's what perfect looks like. And when your cardiologist puts on his stethoscope and he listens to your heart, what he's listening for is he's listening for a good solid love dub. First sound is about twice as tall and twice as wide as the second sound. This is the systolic and the diastolic, or also just called sound 1, sound 2. There's a nice solid steady line in between, which means silence. It doesn't go boom, 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 boom. It goes love dub, love dub. Okay, so these are two different before and after pictures, and I want to show you. First thing I want you to notice is that on the mitral, one of them is of the mitral valve. Please look at the mitral valve, love. The first graph that you see was taken at 1:57 p.m. and the second graph was taken on that same day at 3:22 p.m. And you can see that when he came in, that valve was not working properly. Does that look anything like a love dub?
No.
Nope. And all of the peaks are about the same height, and there's all sorts of gobbledygook garbage. This tells us that the heart is not contracting with the proper force, that the muscles are weak, and that there's an electrical signal that's really whacked out. It's kind of like if you ever saw Elaine from Seinfeld trying to dance. And so what we did is we gave him some very specific supplements, had him chew them, and then we took his blood pressure, and then we also gave him acupuncture, and then we took his heart sound recorder again, just a little over an hour later, and we see a dramatic difference. And that difference is the kind of difference you see a before and after of somebody who would have had a heart attack in the next 5 days. And yet the change we saw was fast, right? So that's the kind of results that we want. We want the fast change that we can see, that's measurable and observable. Okay, second picture, very similar, although this gentleman had a more dramatic situation going on. You can see the first picture is at 8:55 a.m. Here we're looking at the aortic valve. There's 4 different valves of the heart. So here we're looking at the aortic valve, and you can see gobbledygook, 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 gobbledygook. It gets bad. And then you can see on the second graph a whole lot better. Neither one of these are perfect, but we're not trying to get to perfect in an hour. We're trying to get measurable. We're getting the right direction. We're seeing the change. How much change? Okay, good. We're moving in the right direction. By the way, this particular gentleman, he's an older gentleman. And sometimes older gentlemen don't like to listen to their young female doctors. And he's a lovely gentleman, but he just tends to discount the fact that I have an engineering degree and a Chinese medicine degree, and I relentlessly pursue all of this knowledge all of the time. And so he decided on his own that these supplements weren't all of that necessary. And so the supplements that he was taking that brought him from here to here, he decided to take a break from. because he had a little bit of an upset stomach one day that did not have anything to do with the supplements, but he thought, maybe it's the supplements, I'm just gonna stop taking everything. He did have a heart attack. Fortunately, he had taken his supplements long enough that it was an extremely mild one. And he's doing much, much better now. He's very lucky. But there's a danger to not doing the things that your body needs to do. Okay, so part of this conversation, as I mentioned, in clinic, we do an analysis of your heart, and we also recommend foods. We do a testing for food sensitivities, because sometimes what's causing the inflammation in your heart is actually a particular food or substance that you're being exposed to. There's a lot of substances in our industries, a lot of toxins that we just like breathe in, we're just hanging out with. And by the way, since we have a group that's small enough that we can talk honestly, I decided to reward you for coming today, and I'm going to gift you a heart sound recorder. So before we leave today, then just schedule with me and we'll get you on the schedule so that you can get your own before and after. Mary's like, wow.
I just paid for that sucker.
It's not the full initial consult.
Right, no, I'm
It's
teasing.
just the heart sound recorder. So
No,
you'll
it's
plan
very
it out.
generous, it's very nice,
Mhm.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and you need to know what's relevant to you, right? You need to know what matters to you, because that way you know whether or not you need to do something else about it. Okay, so we know that the heart is affected by nutritional deficiencies because we can see it here in this. We chewed something, we swallowed something that wasn't all that yummy, and then we did a before and after. But there's a lot of things that affect the heart, and we've talked a lot about stress. So I'd like to get more into that, because part of my practice is about the nutrition. Part of my practice, oh, by the way, on the cards, the reason that these are so handy is because on the front side, this is called the Dirty Dozen, and these are the foods that most easily absorb pesticides. So these are the ones that you most want to buy organic. Flip it over onto the Clean 15. These are the ones that are safest to get conventional. You have
I
one?
have one.
Yeah. These are the ones that are safest to get conventional, and so now you know where to spend your money, or how to make your food choices. Like, if anybody ever offers you berries that are not organic, then that's not the thing, because those little berries, there's all these little crevices, and they absorb things so well, and that's why they're so yummy. Don't eat the non-organic version of that, especially during the Plant City strawberry time. I know they're everywhere, and they're so popular, and just don't. I know, and my dad is from Plant City, so there's like a whole thing, and it shows up with the flats of them, and I give them away to other people because I am not eating that.
People you don't like.
Yeah, really. People who don't, who
Don't care.
who don't care. That they, that's not where they are, and that's not what they're about. And thank God that there's all of these different people on the planet, because those strawberries are beautiful and delicious.
Right, and the organic ones aren't always so pretty, or the same size and stuff,
know,
amazing,
they're like-
right? Nature's a little different.
Then nature's a little different. Nature appreciates variability. Okay, so we're talking about stress. Think about, so when we talk about, I'm so glad that you mentioned these things about, like talking to your heart, or meditating and listening to your heart. So I teach this particular type of work, and one cardiologist that was exposed to this said, if every single person spent just 5 minutes a day doing this on their heart, then there would be 80% fewer cardiovascular events. Which was really dramatic for a cardiologist to say, right? But like, slow down and listen to your body for 5 minutes a day, and it's that dramatic. Like, wow. Obviously, it's not a testable hypothesis.
Was he talking about meditation?
It's a specific type. And so well, anyway, we might get there if that's something that's useful to you guys. What are some ways, so if you think about relationship as your sweetheart, your spouse, or children, your parents, how might you build relationship with those people?
Food.
Spend time.
Meals,
I mean, you're gonna talk and you're gonna listen, right? Yeah. That's basically, meditation is basically listening. Like there's all this, sometimes people get really up in their heads about meditation and, like there's a really great app and it's called Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics, which I love. It's very well
That's
done.
great.
But the piece of listening to your body has to do with slowing down enough to just take an assessment. It's kind of like having a company meeting with your organs. You gotta listen to your employees. You gotta know what's going on out in the field. You gotta listen to what's going on in here. And most of the time we're too busy running around. We don't have the time and energy to pay that kind of close attention to something that isn't talking to us, pulling on our sleeve or yelling at us on the phone, right?
What do your organs sound like?
Do you know that there's actually it's called the 6 healing sounds?
This is one, right?
That is
Way,
one, yeah,
way.
right, that is one way. A lot of, well, actually, the most common way that people recognize sounds from their organs is through emotions. Each organ has a different emotion that if you are caught up in this particular emotion, then it tends to mean that that organ is a little weak, so it's having trouble processing it. So everybody knows the emotion that's tied to the liver, right? I don't know if you do or not. Okay, have you ever heard this term, she's a bit livery today? It's an archaic term, we don't use it very commonly. Or think of an alcoholic. So what's the emotion tied to alcoholics?
Depression.
Mm-hmm.
Rage, grumpy.
Yeah. Grumpy, anger, and depression can be part of that.
I'm gonna go back to meditation for a second, if you don't mind. Where I was first turned on, for those of you who don't know, I was the second woman to graduate the Sarasota Police Academy, so I was in law enforcement for 10 years. And in the academy, they actually told you if you're on midnight shifts, meditate for 10 minutes, and they taught us how to do it, and it was the equivalent of 8 hours sleep. So if you didn't get enough sleep for that midnight shift, they taught you how to do that 10-minute meditation for the equivalent of 8 hours sleep. And I gotta tell you, I had to use it a few times, it worked.
We do that. There's a lot of different ways. Like meditation is for girls, it's like saying the word black. There's 100 different blacks.
Suitcase term.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of things.
There's a lot of different things that fit into that. In Chinese medicine, we talk about these 2 different things. One of them is Tai Chi, and one of them is Qigong. And so you're probably familiar with Tai Chi, and you might think of it as old people moving slowly. Do you know that Tai Chi is actually translated from a term that means grand ultimate fist, and it is the holder of the Dim Mak death point strike system. That information is not commonly handed out in the
So they're badass.
but they don't know it because when it was brought to America, it was not, the information was not preserved in what is commonly taught for, and that's fine. They're doing it for health and longevity, and that's great. We consider Tai Chi to be movement with a little bit of meditation, and then on the flip side of this, we have Qigong, which we consider to be meditation with a little bit of movement. So there's much less movement involved in it, but it's much more focused. So it's kind of like meditation on steroids, if you'll pardon the phrase, because I don't think highly of steroids, but it gets the message across. So there are extremely fast, extremely powerful ways to send energy signals to your body or to communicate with certain aspects of your body. And in general, the top leaders in the world do something like this. The top athletes often have a natural predisposition to doing this all in of themselves. I do some particular type of measuring in my clinic, and I've gotten to work with a few professional athletes over my career, and it's super cool because the instant that I'm about to test them for, whether or not something's off in this particular, they can tell me before I even do the test. They're like, no, something's not right here. And it's like, oh, well, hold this and see how that is. And it's like, yeah, okay, that fixes it. It's like, cool. You apparently just have that innately. They're like very well wired, which is fabulous and cool. So there are very fast ways to do it. So I don't, my clinic does these very fast. All the people that work in my clinic, we do this every single day. We do So instead of the 10 minutes of meditation, we spend about 90 seconds doing the, I wouldn't say that it's the equivalent of 8 hours sleep, because that's a whole other conversation, and I'll put you to sleep having that conversation with you, but it is very, very powerful. And we say we take Qigong coffee breaks instead of coffee, because coffee is a weak energy booster. Okay, so you asked about how to hear the different organs of your body. For the heart, we talked about this a little bit. You might have a sense of what might an emotion, if somebody's like, if their heart is doing that, how might they feel?
Anxious.
Exactly right. This one is a little bit more, might be a little bit more subtle. We call this spleen and stomach. But there's an emotion associated with the digestive system, and people who have this emotion in spades, they tend to have digestive problems, and they also own this emotion. You cannot take it from me. It is my right to have this emotion, and they'll come up with something that gives them their right. Anybody have a guess?
Stubborn.
You're on the right path. And very on the right path for the I own this emotion. That's mine. You're not taking my stubbornness from me.
Control.
You're on the right path. I think it actually came up on the other. Yeah, it's right here. Worry. Right? So think about how much you feel like eating a meal if you're afraid that you're gonna not make payroll or lose your top contract or get sued, right? You do not tend to go, I would like to have a delicious meal. Or it might go in the other direction. I would like to have 7 delicious meals right now. Right? It goes either way. But worry is the emotion of the spleen and stomach. Lungs. I'll just give you the answer to this, because unless you had a background in Chinese medicine, you would know this, and we'll end up going silent. Lungs are grief. And this is also connected, each of these also have a moral value that they're connected to. So when these things get off kilter, then we get off kilter in particular ways, and we end up making decisions that are not 100% in accordance with our integrity. A little bit bigger conversation, but the last one here is kidneys, and you might have a sense of what of the emotion that's associated with kidneys. I'll tell you a story. When I was in Austin in graduate school, I rode my motorcycle to class, because it's Austin and it's hill country, and that's awesome. And so that was really cool. And I noticed that, like, most of the time I felt really good, and it was like lovely being outside. It was just beautiful, right? And then I noticed that there were certain times that I was like suddenly, for no apparent reason, much more afraid that some car was going to come careening into me or kick me off the side of the road. And in like, it was the same road with the same drivers, without like, I'm not sitting there going, oh, that was narrow. It's like, I'm just imagining this in my head. I'm just making up things to be afraid of. And I noticed that tended to happen during the exam weeks. So when I was stressed out, it was affecting my adrenal glands and my kidneys, your adrenals. Renal means kidney. So your kidneys are right back here, and your adrenals just sit right on top of it. It's this little tiny gland. So now you will always remember exactly where your adrenal glands are, because you know you hacked the code. You know where it is. So Chinese medicine considers the kidneys and the adrenal glands to be basically one and the same. And okay, so the emotion of the kidneys is fear. So if you're walking around like kind of freaked out that things are going to go south for no particular reason, that's a good sign that you're hitting your kidneys. Did I answer your question fully yet?
So, I mean, the opposite of, let's say, worry is confidence. Does the stomach and spleen also mean that one as well?
Yes, and in fact,
I mean, there's gotta be a yang to some of these yings, correct?
Exactly. And you're very right. These actually are the yin organs that are here. And so, so each one of these has its own correct emotion. So with liver, it's compassion. With lung, instead of grief, it's righteousness. With anxiety, it's peace. And with fear, it's basically our translation for it would be like calm. So our right action comes from the proper functioning of our bodies. And now it starts to make, like, we can kind of see that pretty easily. I mean, just think how you might act if you come home at the end of a really stressful day and now say that that's 10 days in a row, so you've been like super stressed out for 10 days. You just might not be very nice to the person around you, or you might not have the energy to be fully present. Like they ask you a question and you're like, I don't care. What do you want for dinner? I don't care. Like, okay, great, thanks. I'll just go make something up then, right? Not having the energy to be fully present because it's happening because your organs are stressed out. Make sense? Yeah. Okay, good. So, build relationships. So, listening to your body. Being responsible for your staff. So this is like, not only is it the heart, but we have all of the organs to be responsible for, and our staff is a little bit outside of us, and in the same way, we are responsible for our actions and our emotions towards others. By the way, we're teaching a special class at my clinic in a couple of weeks that I thought you might be interested in, and it's specifically on emotions and managing emotions through these, as I said, the super fast biohacking techniques. There you go. And if you'll pass that out. And then the recession and the market situation. There's always going to be things that are outside of our control. There's always going to be things that we weren't the person that pushed play on, and those tend to be the things that freak us out the most, right? Like the things that I can set up and I can be in accordance with, it's like, okay, I'm good. One of the fields of study in industrial engineering is change management, and one of the things that we learned was everybody hates change. But that's not really true, is it? Because if that were true, nothing would ever change. So what kind of change do we hate?
Unknown. Unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
Changing
Things that
ourselves.
we didn't foster, that was thrust upon us.
Mm-hmm. Changing myself, if I get the idea and I'm ready to change myself, I am in love with that idea. It is brilliant, it is mine, we are going to succeed. Change that somebody else is telling me to do is not so much. I'm gonna be ticked off and irritated, and part of the reason I'm ticked off and irritated is because I don't really know what that looks like. So I'm entering into the phase of the unknown, which is innately taxing on the kidneys. So by strengthening the kidneys, which is one of the things we do through, do you guys want to learn how to do that? Might as well.
Yeah.
It's right after lunch, otherwise we'll be sleepy. Okay, so stand up. This is the 90-second biohacking alternative to coffee break. So you're gonna stand with your feet slightly wider than shoulder width apart, somewhere in there. Nice, comfortable, just not super tight and closed in together. We're gonna start with 3 deep cleansing breaths. And you can keep your eyes open or closed, but be careful not to look at your cell phones. As you bring your arms up, then deep breath in. And as you bring your arms down in front, slowly relaxing and releasing, focusing first on the eyes, the nose, the throat. Relaxing and releasing your heart and all of your blood vessels. Not too fast. Relaxing and releasing your lungs, your digestive system, your hips, all the way down, deeply rooting into the center of the earth. Second slow, deep, relaxing breath in. This time focusing on the center of your body. And focusing on the center of your head, your brain, feeling all of that luscious blood flow, making you smarter, brighter, stronger. Feeling your own innate goodness radiate out, shuffling off any dust and debris, pushing out any junk that might have floated onto you from other people. Feeling all of your own power and strength radiate out fully, completely around you. Third, slow, deep, relaxing breath in. Being grateful to the earth for supporting you as you stand on it. Being grateful to the heavens as they fall down to inspire you, and focusing on the back side of your body, relaxing and releasing your head, your neck, your shoulders, middle of your back, your buttocks, backs of your legs, all the way down, deeply rooting into the center of the earth. That's called an energy bath. Next, we're going to take 2 loosely cupped fists. You're going to put these knuckles right on your waistband, and you're going to push up at a 45-degree angle, hard enough to make your chest pop out a little bit. We're going to do this together, and we're going to do it 49 times because Professor Chen Nanjing, the famous Chinese medicine practitioner, said this is the one energy exercise you must do every single day. Do it exactly 49 times, no more, no less. He never said why. I figured out why, but he never said why. And by the way, he also cured himself of tuberculosis. Okay, and we'll begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do it like you mean it, people. I'm not buying it. Hey. 10. 1, 2, 3. There you go. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, good. When you're free, you can sit back down. What do you notice in your body right now?
Feel more alert.
Feel circulation going. Feel the circulation.
Yes, circulation.
Great.
And the breathing always gives you a little more energy. Quick breathing.
Good. So
The second one, but the first one, I can feel the blood draining from my arms, obviously going somewhere else. And when you take a deep breath, doing that same thing, it empties filling your lungs with air empties it with blood. So there's blood everywhere else in the body.
awesome. Yeah, it's
I
not.
feel it, I just feel it. That's how you answer my question. That's how you can talk.
That's how you can talk to. That's one of the ways that you can talk. In this particular one, we're specifically talking to the kidneys and to the adrenal glands. What is the organ of your body that most responds during stress? Yep, your adrenal glands. They squirt out adrenaline, but most specifically this little hormone called cortisol. And what cortisol does is it cleans everything up in your body. That's right.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay. I thought I heard somebody come in. Okay.
And when that happens, then we get all wired up and we can move faster and we can think faster and we can act faster and we can run away from the saber-toothed tiger. The problem is that this happens even if we are sitting in our car driving and somebody cuts us off in traffic. All of this gets amped up, right? Or we see an email